Good morning and welcome to the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification webinar. This is the second webinar of the day for our 2021 Virtual Matchmaker program. Just want to announce real quick that the technical issues we had earlier today seem to have been solved by the company that runs the event platform we're using. They have additional servers. We had too many folks logging in, so too much of a good thing. But your meeting should be all set up for the rest of the day with no glitches. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is James Forrest. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal PTAC. We're very happy to have Joseph Moore, our procurement specialist here with Norcal PTAC to give this presentation. We will have a Q&A, so we'll have 5-7-ish minutes at the end. So please enter your questions into the Q&A, not the chat. Enter it into the Q&A so we can all follow along. And we'll see what we can do about getting those answered. I'll be the timekeeper for today as well. So Joe, I may be so bold as to interrupt if you're going over time, but I doubt it. So do try to leave a few minutes for the questions at the end. And thanks so much, and take it away.
Good morning, 2021 Norcal Gov to Business matchmaking participants. I'm Joe Moore. I'm very happy to have you with me today this morning to hear about a critical, complex contract requirement that is being enhanced right before us. You may ask what this new requirement is. That is, what are you aware of? It is Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. The acronym is CMMC. Next slide, please. Okay. This is a first of two slides that's going to give us the topics that I'll be talking about today in the abbreviated session. We're looking at about 20 minutes of discussions and hopefully 8 to 10 minutes for questions. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the first of two slides that talks about the history of the CMMC requirement as it came into the Federal Acquisition Regulation and the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement, including the National Institutes of Standards, publication 800-171. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, this clause, FAR 52204-21, first slide, it applies to all federal agencies where contracts are in excess of micro purchase level. It has 5 definitions in the clause. I've only included the definition that is covered by the contractor information system, what it is and what you're required to do, and what constitutes that type of system. Next slide. It also has the 15 minimum security requirements, plus the 2 that are incorporated from the NIST 800-171 revision 2. And the information that has to be uploaded to the supplier performance risk system via the procurement integrated enterprise environment. This is the basis for level 1 certification, excuse me, by the CMMC AB. And the CMMC AB is the accreditation board. Next slide. This clause, 252-204-7012, is a Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement clause. This clause is required in all Department of Defense contracts. Please note the major elements on this clause that are listed as the third bullet down. This clause is in all contracts, and compliance is expected by industry firms when working for DoD. Next clause, please. I mean, next slide, not next clause. This slide here has the definitions that apply to this clause for controlled unclassified information and federal contract information. Next slide, please. This is the first set of 3 new clauses that came out in November of 2020, which provide enhanced specification for contractor compliance. And the 3rd slide, please. Next slide. There we go. And this is the 3rd side of third reference of the 3 new clauses. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. This slide has the definition of what level 1 practice and process entails in general terms, and how it is related to a level 5 company, which is the most sophisticated, complex requirement for handling information, what their practice and process is. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide is this slide and the next slide talk about the 17 requirements for obtaining a level 1 certification. The column over on the left-hand side is the CMMC control instruction number. All 17 have a control instruction number to them. And the second slide is the balance of the 17 requirements for a level 1 certification, which originate in the FAR clause. Next slide, please. I think you're, yeah, here, okay. Yeah, this is the second slide. The FAR clause lists these requirements in the clause itself. The top 3 items, escort visitors and monitor visitor activity, maintain audit logs of physical access, and control and manage physical access devices. In the clause, that's one element. In this particular element with CMMC, they broke them out to 3 different controls, as you can see here. Okay, go back 1 slide, please, James. Yeah, just take a look at these for a second. Next slide, please. Okay. This slide is in here to make you aware of the requirements for any certification above level 1. The Appendix E is provided as in the reference guide as to where you can find that document. But each level is growing upon the previous level. It is envisioned that most small businesses will be at the level 1 certification requirement. Level 2 and level 4 are transition levels between 1 and 3 and 3 and 5. But they do have new requirements at the transition level. Next slide, please. Okay. How can the PTAP assist you in this process? PTAP can assist registered clients in the CMMC process as an advisor, but not as an assessor. We can advise you, but we cannot do the formal assessment of your program. What does this include? Well, it helps to providing assistance to the client by helping the client to understand the registration process for the Procurement Integrity Enterprise Environment, PIEE, and uploading that score in the subprogram in the PIEE of the Supplier Performance Risk System. This is where you enter your score that you've obtained once you do your self-evaluation of the 17 requirements for level 1. Next slide, please. Okay. Other things that we can do to assist you is working with you to develop your plan of action and milestones, implementation of those milestones, and updating your score in the SPRS system. All these requirements have to be completed before formal level 1 certification can commence. Next slide, please. Okay. What effect does this have on DoD, on small businesses? Well, number one, DoD is in the process of reviving the clause, making a revision to the 204-7012 clause. It also has been anticipated that the contractor compliance will be part of evaluation criteria for proposals that are submitted. And the third element in here is that the current clause, as it's written, remains in continuous use until the end of any contract, until the originally established end date, and full contractor compliance remains in place. Next slide, please. Okay, certification is all or nothing. There is no partial certification. No certification to ability, no certification, no ability to submit a proposal. No plan of action is accepted in lieu of a certification. The bottom line is that it's going to affect all vendors, primes, subcontractors, large and small. If you work with the DoD or in the DoD supply chain, the question is not when you need CMMC, but what level and when you need CMC and when is it and when you will need it and when it is needed. Anticipated duration for the certification once the certification process starts will be 3 years. No certification process has started at this time. There are no vendors out there right now providing certification. Next slide, please. Okay. Excuse me 1 second, please. We'll get my definition here. Only approved assessors that are fully licensed by 3C PAO can conduct assessments. C3PAO is the acronym stands for CMMC Third Party Assessor Organization. This organization is under the CMMC Accreditation Board. Okay, so this is there's people out there trying to sell assessments right now. Nobody has been fully licensed. The training is still ongoing for the assessors. Next slide, please. It started out moving forward in March 2020 when the CMMC Manual version 102 came out along with the appendices. The manual is a great reference desktop guide because it has all the information about all the control modules. And the appendix makes reference back to the various source documents talking about those control documents. Next slide, please. Here's the list of reference materials. This is current as of yesterday. So if something has changed since yesterday, you'll have to just go find the new one. But everything is current right now. Next slide, please. These are all the documents that the CMMC AB has put out. Okay, and then you do have down here at the bottom level 1 assessment guide, which is out there. And the information for the CMMC AB is at the top, and the acquisition.osd.mil is at the bottom for the other information. Next slide, please. This notice of suppliers is from the Defense Logistics Agency. This notice only applies to contractors that currently hold a certification in the Enhanced Joint Certification Program. But they have a requirement in there if they hold that certification to have their information in the system, in the supplier risk defense supplier performance risk system, SPRS, by 16 August. It only applies for those companies that have that certification. Next slide, please. Here's my contact information. I think at this point in time, we're going to switch over and look at some questions that may have come in. I hope this brief has made you aware of the new requirement as a responsible business organization that you will start planning, if not already started, on how to become CMMC compliant. This requirement is not going away. I'm now ready for some questions, please.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. And yes, that was a very informative, dense bit of fire hose of information there. But rest assured, you're getting all of these slides that you can carefully review later. If your business is doing anything with tech and cybersecurity is going to be of concern to you, Joe has just given you a lot of really useful information on this that may require some digestion later. So please enter some questions if you have any. Hitesh is asking about the slides. You'll all get them tomorrow. I will email them out, so don't worry about that. Santosh is asking, when is the latest date for level 1 compliance?
The latest date being the whole program is supposed to be fully executed by 2025, fiscal year 2025.
Fiscal year 25. All right, thanks. And Tony's asking, and I think I already know the answer to this question, is this a requirement only if you work for the DoD?
The 7012 requirement is for DoD. The FAR requirement is for all federal agencies, including DoD. There is talk at the CMMC board, AB board, and some of the webinars that are coming out that potentially this requirement is going to go all federal agency wide. But right now, the 7012 requirement is DoD. The other requirement under the FAR requirement is just for is all federal agencies.
And just to be specific about the term work for, we're talking about contracting, not for employees.
Yes, yes, for contracting, yes.
Yeah, for government contracts. All right, thanks, Tony. That's a good question. Do we have any other questions? We've got plenty of time. We've got 10 minutes for questions here. And I'll just leave a little bit of dead air here so we can give some time for folks to enter everything in. If you want to just say hello and network a little bit, you can use the chat for that as well. Hopefully people are able to join the meetings they have scheduled and everything's going well so far. All right, well, maybe we'll have a longer break. So the next webinar, I'll just show you, is going to be SBDC Lender Panel. Oh, it looks like we got a question here. All right.
Okay, good.
AS is asking, hello everyone. I am Shabu Malarapu, President and CEO. Oh, that's not a question. Okay, that's just networking. If you have networking, you can please put that in the chat, and then we can just you guys can all talk to each other, but that doesn't need to be read aloud there. All right. Okay, so Kurt is asking here, suppliers, is this referring to products and or services, question mark?
The requirement, the way it is right now, is for all products that are not commercial in nature. All services, all products that are not common commercial items. So if you were selling notebooks to the federal government, you don't have to be CMMC compliant.
Could you unpack the meaning of commercial a little more there?
All commercial items that are standard off the shelf items that are manufactured for the general public
Okay.
would be those items that are not required to have CMMC compliance. But all other services and items that are related to the requirements in the regulations would be subject to the CMMC requirements of being certified.
Okay, so products and services, and thanks for that specification, Joe. What are the initial steps to start level 1? Self-assessment? If so, what guide to use?
Well, there's a self-assessment guide out in the references from DOD. There's also the level 1 guide from the CMMC AB for level 1 of self-assessment. Self-assessment is going to be done by the company, and that's the score you're going to enter into the performance risk system. And then from there on, you're going to develop a POA&M for the completion of those requirements. But self-assessment, it starts with looking at the level 1 guide that's put out by the CMMC AB.
Okay, great. And Hitesh is just clarifying, I think we already went over this, COTs, that's commercial off the shelf, right? Those
commercial off the shelf items, yes.
Those are indeed excluded.
Yes, as of right now.
As of right now. All right. And Kurt is asking, what about construction activities and dredging, for instance?
I'm not aware of any construction industries having to be compliant. But again, if you look at the definition under the FAR requirement, if you transmit any information to the government, it kind of brings you into that umbrella of needing to be certified. And you can look at that requirement for submitting anything to a government, from invoices to drawings to anything like that would come in under the FAR requirement, which is discussed on slides.
The numbers will probably be different.
11 and 12, I think, is a slide number.
Within Joe's presentation. So
yeah.
the numbers will be different once everyone gets the slide deck. But
okay.
count 12 from the beginning of his presentation. So Fisher is asking, will there be a list of who are independent auditors?
CMMC AB has a part of their website. They have a list of firms who have applied to become approved auditors, and that's where the approval list will go once the approval approval process has been completed.
Right, perfect.
And I think they call that the CMMC AB store. I think that's what they're listing it as, but it's all under the CMMC AB website.
Great. Right. Kurt is asking, would that include information going to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in RMS?
Again, I would have to assume it would, because they are government. They are part of the Department of Defense.
All right. Chanel's asking, do you think CPR and first aid training services would be required to get certification?
I can't answer that one. I don't know.
All right. And where could they find out if they're required? Is there some resource?
Again, the CMMC AB, their resource document is very extensive, along with the information I've given you here as resources.
Is there a link somewhere to that in the slides, Joe?
It's on the last couple pages of the slides.
Okay. Just want to see if we can highlight that, because I think that's going to be especially useful.
This is the link for the CMC AB at the top, and then the publications and the home information is at the acquisitionosd.mil under, and then the next slide back up gives the link for the clauses.
Okay, I'm going to drop that one of those into the chat here. That's the CMMC AA, CMMC standard. All right. So good questions. Thanks, everyone. Fisher's asking, how would I become qualified to do an audit?
To become an auditor, you have to register with CMMC AB, and they will do a background check on you. They'll do other information before they put you in the training program.
Joe Moore for all that extensive research. Thanks everyone for joining, and we've got an SBDC lender panel coming up, facilitated by Steve Roth, the SBDC Finance Center. And then after that, we've got a lunch break. So do stick around and enjoy your meetings if you're not going to make it to the next webinar. And thanks again, Joe.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good event.